asked right now if you control your own thoughts, you would say yes. This belief is the baseline for our everyday navigation. But there is a form of influence that bypasses our conscious awareness. It is a process of rewriting an individual's reality so effectively that the external commands are indistinguishable from their own ideas. From a neuroscientific perspective, the human brain functions as a biocomputer. It is optimized for efficiency and energy conservation, meaning it prioritizes shortcuts and environmental trust over the exhaustive work of verifying every truth. Because the mind is hardwired for this frictionless operation, a successful hack does not feel like an intrusion, it feels like a choice. To identify it, we have to look for specific behavioral anomalies. The first anomaly is the rewritten archive. A manipulator omits specific facts to plant seeds of doubt about your perception of time, until you begin to defer to their timeline over your own memory. Next is the emotional echo. You find yourself carrying a heavy sense of guilt or anxiety that has no clear origin in your own actions, effectively absorbing the emotional instability of someone else. The third is a demand for total vulnerability. They map your insecurities to catalog your triggers for future use, while offering no transparency about their own motives in return. Fourth, the controlled oasis. This involves characterizing the outside world as hostile or judgmental, positioning the manipulator as the only safe environment you have left. The fifth sign is the shifting horizon. Here, the requirements for approval or success change without warning, keeping you in a state of performance anxiety that drains your cognitive energy. Sixth is predictive intermittency. By alternating between random intervals of affection and cruelty, they lock your nervous system into a trauma bond, leaving you constantly scanning for the next positive reinforcement. Finally, the counterintuitive apology. This is a narrative framework where an admission of guilt is structured so that you end up comforting the person who committed the mistake. These tactics are effective because they mimic the natural rhythms of human relationships, allowing them to operate beneath the threshold of our usual defenses. The reason we are susceptible to this lies in our biological hardware. For the majority of human history, social rejection was a death sentence. To be cast out was to lose all protection and resources. Because of this evolutionary pressure, the fear of rejection triggers a surge of cortisol. As shown here, this chemical spike actively deactivates the logical prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for critical analysis. When we perceive a threat to our social standing, our biology shuts down the capacity for objective thought in favor of maintaining the peace. This vulnerability isn't limited to the weak or the uneducated. In fact, clinical evidence suggests a surprising trend. In the mid-20th century, psychiatrist William Sargant conducted extensive research into mind control and brainwashing within environments like this clinical ward. Sargant found that the individuals most susceptible to influence were actually the highly disciplined and the intensely logical. These minds have a powerful built-in drive for internal consistency. They cannot tolerate a logical contradiction in their own worldview. If a manipulator can plant a single false premise that seems logical, an intelligent victim will use their own reasoning to justify that lie, carrying it to its most extreme conclusion. In this scenario, intelligence acts as a sharper tool for the manipulator to use against the victim's own mind. These same principles of behavioral modification are now being applied beyond individual relationships. We've built a global digital infrastructure using these anomalies, isolation, intermittent rewards, shifting rules, as primary operating nodes. By tracking micro-expressions and scrolling patterns, these systems predict emotional vulnerabilities in real time, allowing behavioral nudges before you consciously feel an impulse. The result is a landscape where political leanings and personal anxieties are often responses to a system designed to keep users predictable and engaged. We are moving toward a state of systemic orchestration. Here, the gap between your own intent and an engineered response becomes increasingly difficult to measure. Look back at the major choices you've made recently. That sudden change in direction, that lingering guilt, or that fierce new opinion. Can you be certain they were yours, or were they just the intended output of the system?